Hey y'all, I'm Steve Bailey here. You're watching for Bass Players Only and digging it.
Hi everyone, John Liebman here. You're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com. Coming to you today on location from the Warwick and famous world headquarters, Markneukirchen, Germany, with our very, very old friend, Steve Bailey.
Whoa. Very, very old friend. How do you say that so it doesn't have the word old in it? Our longtime friend, Steve Bailey.
There you go. Hi, Steve.
Hi.
Hi, Steve.
My very, very old, let me hold this thing. My very, very old friend, John. How old are you?
About a month older than you.
Yep. My elder, so I shall respect you as I should.
Last time we did an interview, I know we talked for a little bit here at the base camp in 2014, but that was mostly about you and Vic putting on the base camp and Hans-Peter Wilfer and all the great things that happen here at Warwick. The last time we did an interview about you was actually in 2012, and you were just getting acclimated to your new role as chairman of the bass department at Berklee. You were excited. You were just kind of getting your bearings. I was asking you about where you'd like to take the department, and you had some ideas. But 4 years later, how's it going at Berklee? I spent a little time there this summer. I interviewed half a dozen members of your faculty.
Yes, you did.
And the fact that some of the people have been there, some of the guys have been there 20, 30, close to 40 years, I think that says something very positive about the environment and the atmosphere. But give me your take on it. Tell me about the bass department at Berklee and what's been going on for at least the last 4 years or so.
Well, I saw part of that interview, and I said that you said I was getting acclimated. I'm still getting acclimated after 4 years. There's always new things to learn and new ways to do things, and kind of that's been a focus, one of our focuses in the department of finding just in some cases new ways to skin a cat to get the same result, maybe using technology more, maybe a little more efficiently. Maybe one thing we've done is focus on more a variety of styles. Hired a metal specialist, an academic metal specialist, and we've been having fun, man. This last year we've got a Megadeth ensemble as part of our 500 ensembles at Berklee, and we got the whole band Megadeth in there with them, rehearsing, and with Dave Mustaine hanging out with the guys, and man, I we'll post a little picture of my wall of shame, because when I first got there, I got this cabinet, and I thought, I don't know how long I'm going to stay here. It might be 6 months, it might be 6 years, who knows? But everybody, you get all the guests to sign a wall, and I can't take a wall with me, so I got this beautiful black cabinet, and you'll see the guests that we've had over the last 4 years. So they've ranged from metal, from Meshuggah, to Cannibal Corpse, to Nathan East, to Eddie Gomez. Wow. And James Jamerson Jr., all points in between. And we've had well over 100 visiting artists come through just in my 4 years. We added John Patitucci was just what we call a performance scholar in residence right as I got there, and then we had Eddie Gomez for 2 years and John Clayton for 2 years. And then now we've added, as a performance scholar in residence, which is an ongoing faculty position, the Reverend Victor Wooten is now a Berklee professor. And he's there every month for at least 5 days doing residencies, classes, guest appearances, concerts. It's been a real boon to the department. I hired a classical specialist.
A woman, right?
Susan Hagen, yeah. Right. You see her a lot with the Boston Pops and the Boston Symphony, and she has been nicknamed the goddess of pedagogy, and she's amazing. And Chris Laughlin was hired since then. Chris, I believe you did an interview with him. He's a gospel specialist, plays with Brian McKnight, and a historian in that regard, and a great guy to have in the department. Our latest hire is starting tomorrow. Is the great James Genus, who you might know from Saturday Night Live or Herbie Hancock or Daft Punk or whatever. We've got James on the faculty now. We're really stoked about that. So, with 22, 23 bass professors and close to 400 bass students, it keeps us jumping. The curriculum, I'm sure as we talk, I'll think of new things that have changed there. Since then, a new assistant chair, John Rapucci, retired a year into my gig. He was the assistant chair for 40 years under Rich, and he was so great, helped me cut my teeth and learn where all the bodies are buried out there, and then we hired a great new assistant chair named Sandro Scoccia, who has just been a key component in implementing a lot of the new features and new protocol policy, and utilizing a lot of technology to really make things more efficient. We've become the first department at Berklee to be literally paper-free. We don't use paper anymore, and that was one of my goals, just to get away from kind of like Warwick here, where you respect the environment and try not to chop down too many trees. So with that comes a lot of innovation that makes things more efficient, makes record keeping and archiving a lot more practical. So, thanks, Sandro.
Well, that's great. That's really impressive because you can't sit still, and there's always new stuff to come up with, and always new techniques, new styles, and the kids change too. I was in the school business for 26 years, and one of the first things I learned, as I'm sure you figured out pretty quickly, every year we get a year older, but the students stay the same age. And when Rich Appleman started, 40 plus years ago, I can imagine what the thought process was, what kids were into. This was before, they were all on their phones and everything. But it brings up an interesting question. I did say something in our last interview, and I meant it sincerely. I said, I couldn't imagine anybody more qualified for that position than you to take over as chair of the bass department. But I've got to ask you something. I used to do a lot of work with the Detroit Economic Club, and one of our speakers was Jeff Immelt, who took over as CEO for GE. Yeah. And this was right after Jack Welch's long tenure. And Jack Welch had just been named CEO of the century. And Jeff Immelt started like the next week. He said, now how do you go into a position like that following the CEO of the century? Do you feel any of that because Rich was there for so long? And obviously you've done great things, and you're highly regarded and respected, and all the wonderful things that you just mentioned, probably a whole lot that you didn't mention. But was there some of that, trepidation when you stepped into that role?
I don't know if trepidation's the right word. Respect. There was a lot of respect for what Rich had done over the years, and in an academic environment, in a university environment, a chair position is usually 2-3 year terms, and it's typically a faculty position. I'm talking about every college in the world but Berklee. But at Berklee, a chair position is a whole different beast. It's a administrative management position that, quite frankly, shocked the heck out of me. The more I learned about it, I went, wow, I can do that? I can do that? That's the plus side of it. There are no term limits, as there are in most chairdoms in universities, where and I see why they do it, because they changing leadership more often, just like we talk about it, whether it's in Congress or Senate or the president. That's why there are term limits. there's a plus and downs of that. The pluses are Rich was there for 40 years and got that department. I mean, it just ran like clockwork. You know, nothing. I still freak out at these deadlines that just creep up on me. Oh, that was due. You know, I've got to get these faculty reports in. Oh, you know, and Rich just had it down to where it just, he had this internal clock, I believe, that just he's just so comfortable in the position. But when I got there, we went out to lunch, and I said, Rich, you know, wanting to get the inside scoop, can you tell me, you know, what I need to know about each faculty member, and you know, what their disposition is and all of that, and you know, what do I need to look out for? And Rich was so cool. He said, you know what? It's probably better that you figure all of that out for yourself instead of me putting preconceptions into your brain that will become expectations. And I said, yeah, okay. I mean, that's not what I wanted to hear, but in retrospect, it made so much sense. So, you know, I mean, Rich was there from the beginning, basically, and the bass department grew exponentially under his leadership, and you can't argue with that. The only thing I've tried to do is carry on that tradition and the vibe. I think you ask the guys in the bass department and other departments. I mean, the bass department has one of the best vibes and less drama, I guess you would say, than I'm sure every department says that, but that's how we feel about it.
I picked it up. I witnessed that firsthand. We have 6 of the interviews that I did. You know, the 6 interviews I did, everybody genuinely respects each other, likes each other, and like I said before, a 20, 30, almost 40-year tenure with some of the faculty members. That's got to say something about that environment.
Yeah, and Rich is still on the scene. I mean, he's teaching Berklee online, and he just finished this great book with 2 other faculty, Bruce Gertz and Whit Brown, a great book. And I see him periodically. He drops in, and if I ever have a question that I just need some sage wisdom on, he's always there for me. But yeah, we hang out. We had a big cookout over at my house just about a month ago, and it was a blast. Whit Brown, he's been there over 40 years. He and Bruce, he shows up with his custom car that made Lee Sklar like drool, and you know, there's Bruce Gertz and other folks playing bocce ball on the bocce ball court, and that's how we hang. I don't think I heard anybody mention the word bass the whole night. All we did was watch Sandro barbecue and hang out and talk about everything but music, I think. Yeah, life is good at the bass department.
That's great. Everybody likes and respects each other as people. That's wonderful to hear. Why don't we talk some bass stuff? In our first interview that I did with you, you said, boy, I have a lot of basses, and you rattled off a few, I think. But I mentioned to you earlier, every time I've seen you in the last, 2, 3 years, maybe more than that, you always seem to be playing the same bass, the Warwick 6-string fretless. So that must be very special to you. Let's talk a little bit about that bass and about Warwick in general.
Yeah. Well, obviously, before Warwick, I was with a big company that starts with an F and ends with an R, and ends, and the word end is inside of the F and the R. Go figure that out. And you know, we worked on a cool 6-string bass. They hadn't really done one with a low B ever, so we worked that out, and I thought everything was hunky-dory. And then I've known Hans Peter for well over 20 years at that point, and we'd met and hung out. And
Hans Peter Wilfer, owner and founder of Warwick.
Absolutely, the main man. And I just hung out with him at NAMM, and just to sum it all up, the Fender, as great a company as they are, and I've had a great relationship with them, especially back in the 80s, and then through my last tenure of developing that signature instrument, the only thing I can put it like is the difference between, at that point, 5 years ago, Fender and Warwick is Fender. You've seen those IBM Apple commercials?
Yeah.
Fender was IBM. I mean, it was big, huge, and but the suits and just the corporate kind of mentality, which it takes to compete in on international Globesat. And then I came over and hung out with Warwick, and they were like, wow, this is like Apple. Goofy people running around doing great things and walking through the halls here and bumping into Jonas Hellborg, who works here, and then all of their artist faculty. There you go. I've been working at a college too long. Their artist roster was just, wow, man, so diverse. And so there have been a few things to go down at Fender that probably wasn't ideally like I would have liked it, but they sold a lot of my basses, and all of that was good. But I decided when I turned 50 years old that I'm going to do whatever is the most satisfying and the most fun. It's not about the money. It's not about the promotion. It's not about any of that. It's about how good do you feel about what you're doing. And for me, that was a no-brainer. And I'll say this, my signature model that we worked on with a previous company, it took 3 years to bring it to production. With Warwick, it took 3 weeks to get a finished prototype, and it was in production within a month or two. And I the older we get, we like to see things move quickly, except the calendar. Okay. But you want to get something done, waiting half a decade for it is not ideal. So Warwick was really fluid and are really fluid in getting things done. As you'll see in this Yin-Yang Steve Bailey model, that pulled that together in about a month. And
can you describe that for us briefly?
No, I can't describe it. You're going to have to see a picture of it, which I think you'll see it right now.
Okay. While we're looking at it now, tell us about what we're seeing.
Well, here's the deal. My wife, who's a photographer, she was pissed when she saw this bass. She goes, "How can you copy Victor like that? Why would you? Victor can't like that." And it's one of those basses that I had done as a tribute to Victor. Working with him all these years, seeing that Yin-Yang bass. It's basically a Warwick Yin-Yang, and it's the what do we call imitation is the ultimate form of flattery. And so Victor loves it, and but other people are like, man, that is just such a blatant ripoff. And when you look at it, it's really not a ripoff. It's just an inspiration. It's a beautiful instrument. It's basically my signature instrument, but with artwork that only Warwick could pull off, and an ebony fingerboard that's half ebony and ivory, but it's not real ivory. It's actually ebony, but it's you'll see it. You have to see it to believe it.
And you enjoy playing it, I assume?
Of course, yeah. I brought it over. What's really fun is just people's reaction to it. I mean, it sounds like my other basses, same great bass lines, pickups, same electronics, same everything, except the graphics are pretty off the hook.
Beautiful instrument. One thing we touched on last time, I said, are you still able to sneak away for the occasional gig? Obviously, we're here in Germany, but have you been able to do much playing lately?
I found that I was worried about that when I started at Berklee, and it is, how do I put it? It's the biggest responsibility I've ever taken on, with the most flexibility I could ever have imagined. And today, as we sit here, I teach a class here at Warwick in a half hour. From there, I go straight to a computer where we're having entering student auditions today. And there'll be, between today and tomorrow, 100 new bass players coming to Berklee, almost 100. And we'll be evaluating them in teams. And then Sandro and I'll be working cyber team-wise to pair them with an instructor. So while I have a lot of freedom and I have a great team of support back in Boston, I'm still, at the end of the day, responsible and accountable to make sure that things get done. So I've gotten to play more concerts and have more fun, especially now. You know, we've been going out as the Berklee Bass Brigade with Patitucci and Wooten, myself and Dorico Watson, and now that James Genus is joining the faculty, we'll be amping that up, and I'm, play some with my own faculty, and I don't have much time to play around Boston, but I am getting out and flying more than I used to, so there's nothing wrong with that.
I've gotten an MP3 around Christmas time once or twice from you guys. That was very cool.
Yeah, we do our annual Berklee Bass Department Christmas, I don't know what you call it. We come up with a tune and we just start building it on our guest artist. And yeah, the last year's was crazy because it had Rocco Presti on it, and Lee Sklar, and Victor, and Patitucci, and Dave Ellefson, and it was just
that's quite a cross section of
it is
backgrounds and styles.
Well, when you hear the track, it's pretty apparent that it's schizophrenic just enough, but we're just working on one now, and hopefully we'll have that out. And we're actually the first. I kind of wore it here today. We're the first bass department really to have our own swag. And the money we raise from this goes into a visiting artist and a scholarship fund. So we're on the cutting edge of academia.
Good for you. We also talked about the surfing, which I know is important to you. I know you're from Carolina, and you were out in LA for a while, and you were looking forward to trying out to testing the waters in Boston. Did you get a chance to do that?
I am still not gotten. I've gotten in the water up there, but I have not surfed in Boston. I've got this new app that monitors all the great white shark sightings along the Cape, and this
Very practical.
This thing is blinking like a Christmas tree. And I'm kind of joking. I'm not really worried about sharks. What I more dislike is the temperature of the water. I'm only 2.5 hour flight from Boston to Myrtle Beach, so I like to go down there where the water's warm. And believe me, I spend more than my share of time at what I call the Berklee Bass Department Southern Command Post. And I sit right looking at the ocean with my laptop, taking care of Berklee business, and then sneaking some surfing in on my coffee breaks.
Well, it sounds like you lead a well-rounded life. It's great catching up with you, Steve. Congratulations on everything you've done, and looking forward to everything else that you're going to do. Just a world of possibilities.
My old friend John. We go all the way back to college, y'all.
Yeah, we go back to 1984. First time I saw you, you were in a club in a Holiday Inn called Green Streets with a piano player named Billy Marcus.
Wow. That's a good memory.
From the world headquarters of Warwick and Framus in Markneukirchen, Germany, forever young Steve Bailey is our guest today. I'm John Liebman. You're watching ForBassPlayersOnly.com. Grow up, will you?
No, I will not.